Hello, my friend. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Pete, and we are talking about one of our most important tips for becoming a better manager and leader in your gym. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I think you should just listen. It's a short podcast, and I think this tip will make you almost immediately a better manager and leader in your gym. So keep on listening, friends. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business of Unicorns podcast. I'm back with Mr. Dupuis. What's up, Pete?
Hello there, Mr. Keeler.
Good to have you as always, my friend. Before we jump into today's topic, I want to just do a quick little shout out for all of our listeners that we open enrollment for our Unicorn Society business mentorship group only twice a year. But if you're interested during those in-between times, we keep a wait list on our website that you can go put your name on. And if we have openings between those enrollments, we will let you in. It's kind of a one person in, one person out kind of model at this point. So I just wanted to say that if you want to work more with me and Pete and Mark and Ben and the rest of our Business of Unicorns team, and you think Unicorn Society could be a great fit, go put your name on that wait list. It's not a commitment to do anything. It's just letting us know you're interested. So if a space opens up, we'll let you know. And then when enrollment does come around twice a year, you're first in line to know whether or not we have any spots for you. And so I would say, click the link down below in the show notes or go to businessofunicorns.com and click on the Unicorn Society button, and you can put your name on that wait list, and it doesn't obligate you to anything at all. Anything you would add to that tip, Pete?
Oh, well, we just hit a kind of a big target number for Unicorn Society enrollment. So this isn't false scarcity. This really is a one in, one out deal because we chased a goal, we hit the number, and now it's kind of like, well, we designed capacity for this number.
Yeah.
And so this is a real wait list. Doesn't mean you'll wait forever, but totally. It's not, I don't know. One of my biggest pet peeves in this industry is I just opened up a spot in my coaching program move. And I can't emphasize this enough. This is not that. If you go on the wait list, you got to wait a little.
100%. Yeah, we're not calling you tomorrow and offering you a spot almost ever, but it might mean, you get in much faster than you would have otherwise. So yeah. Great addition there, Pete. Awesome. Well, let's dive into today's topic. And you want to tee up today's topic, Pete?
Yeah, let me run it for our dear listeners. Michael is fresh off COVID and he's not 100% yet.
Yes.
And he got the tough version of it. So I'm going to run this one a little bit for us. And I will tell you that this one was driven by a conversation from earlier today. I say this often. Coaching calls tend to spawn ideas. And I had the benefit of talking to a gym owner who's been in the game longer than me. And I don't run into a lot of gym owners who have been doing this since before 2007. And this one is kind of a killer. And she's been, she's now pushing 20 years of doing this. And she told me that her objective with working with us is to tighten up our SOPs and make sure the systems are really clean. And I said to her, look, your team's big, like twice as big as my team. She's approaching 18, 19 years of doing this. And the thing is running. And what I wanted her to do is less. I said, I want you to just get out of the way. I want you to let the systems that exist run so you can actually evaluate how they perform, as opposed to being in it, fingers in everything, micromanaging every meeting, doing all of it. My action item for this coaching call was less. Step away, see what you got. Because you don't really know what you have until you kind of give it a sink or swim type dynamic. And you step away and just see where the problems are or see where the strengths are. And the other thing that I have found continuously in my time away from the operation is that my team's better at a lot of things than I am. And they won't step up and do those things if I'm here unintentionally capturing those responsibilities.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. I think, one, it's just a great example of how valuable coaching can be, right? To have someone like you sit in front of this very seasoned gym owner and say, hey, I see this a little differently. I see this as an opportunity for you to do fucking less. I see this as an opportunity for you to leave your team alone, get out of their way, see what happens when you're not there. And what a valuable invitation. What a great suggestion for just helping this person just interact with their business in a whole new way. Whether they take you up on the offer or not, I think the fact that just goes to show how valuable kind of a coaching conversation like that can be, or a mentoring conversation. And I think it's so spot on. I think too often I see so much micromanaging in the gym space because people's personalities and identities are so tied to their businesses that they own. And it's very true for all small business owners, or most. And I think it's so hard to let go, so hard to step away. It's so hard to let people make mistakes and be okay with that as part of the learning process. I think it's really tough, and it's really essential. An analogy I'll use here is I often say that, managing teams, running a business is like, it's like managing a garden. It's like growing a garden, right? Your job is to create the conditions for all the plants and the vegetables and things to grow. But the garden doesn't do better when you stand in your backyard and stare at it. Right? You're not
Perfect.
helping your peppers grow bigger or more tomatoes on the vine by you standing over, hovering over them and watching them every fucking day. In fact, you need to step away and say, okay, what happens? Oh, actually, I got some bugs, or the deer fence is not high enough, or it doesn't seem like they're getting enough water, right? But you have to leave and come back and see what's changed. But you need to give them a chance to thrive on their own, and then come back and learn lessons from that, hopefully. And too often, gym owners, including myself, I'm sure you've been in that position too, we're so attached to our identity of being needed and being ours that we just never walk away long enough to learn those lessons.
Totally true. When the best example of my learning this lesson was in the spring of 2020 when we shut our business down, but Eric and I decided not to stop the payroll faucet, and we were
Mm,
going to keep people going. We weren't going to furlough people. Obviously, in hindsight, who knows? I mean, we could make a lot of different decisions, but in that moment, we said we've got a rainy day fund that'll allow us to do this,
hmm.
but neither of us are going to take paychecks during that time. And so I
Yeah.
said to the whole team, hey, good news, your direct deposit is going to come in biweekly indefinitely. The bad news, I'm not doing any work anymore. You're going to do all my job. And so some of you are going to manage the email account. Some of you are going to return phone calls. Some of you are going to do invoicing. I'm literally going to delegate 100% of my role with the exception of running payroll.
Yep.
And I abdicated a lot of responsibilities. And I found out two things. One, it's not, none of the things on my to-do list were things that I was singularly capable of doing.
Yeah.
And two, they were dying to be given more meaningful responsibilities. So when we came out of our bubble 100 days later and we reopened the space, I had multiple employees ask me if they could hold on to responsibilities they'd inherited during that time. And so
Mm.
the ultimate takeaway was, Pete, you're not that good at a lot of this stuff, and we're eager to do it. Why don't you do less? And
Yeah,
so
totally.
it was a learning
Well,
experience.
yeah, I mean that's a perfect example. And here's the thing: is I think so often as leaders, when we think about delegating, or we think about handing over responsibilities that are on our plate to someone else, we only think about the possible downsides. We only think about the possible negatives, about how much someone could screw it up, about how much they're going to want to make more money for taking on those things, how much no one's ever going to do it as good as us, et cetera, et cetera. And some of those things are going to happen. Some of those things might be true in some cases, but we never, or almost never, think as easily about the potential upside. That I'm going to find people who are way, way better at this than I will ever be. I'm going to find people to take this task who are actually really interested in doing it, more interested than I'll ever be. I'm going to find people to do this task who I can pay way less per hour to than what I should be paying myself. Like, there's so much potential upside that if we thought about that more, I think we delegate more.
100% agree.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I feel like I have a hard time going back and counting all the times I've had to learn this lesson. I mean, I think the biggest one I can remember at MFF was for years and years. I was kind of like the facilities person at MFF, the person who just made sure all the light bulbs were changed and the walls were painted and the materials were purchased, and in part because I wanted to make sure I had my hand on the purse. on the big expenses that it took to kind of run. Yeah. And for anyone who's been to Mark Fisher Fitness and Hell's Kitchen, it's a weird combination of buildings. They're all kind of old and decaying and full of, old brick that are literally hundreds of years old. and so I, and I kind of took great pride in, like, I'm uniquely the person who can figure out how to corral and manage this just bizarre space. And there's no possible way I could teach someone to do it and have them be responsible for spending that kind of money, making those choices. And it took me kicking and screaming, handing that off to people. And this was, many years ago at this point. And then once I did, I really kicked myself in the ass for not doing it way sooner. once I found someone who was like, yeah, I love running the space. I love making sure the cleaners are doing their jobs. I love making sure it looks good. I love the aesthetics. I love the order of it all. And I want to do it on the cheap. In fact, the person I found got a thrill out of finding out how to take care of the space as cheaply as possible. Sometimes they even were more frugal than I ever would have been. Right. And I never would have taken that leap if I wasn't nudged and pushed to do so. And it freed me up to do all kinds of, better, more high leverage tasks.
So, Keeler, if I were the gym owner on the other end of this feedback, and you were advising that I take a step away from this metaphorical garden, do you see there as being a sweet spot for duration on this hiatus from micromanagement? Is there a too little, not enough time to let it run its course, or too much where it's irresponsible to step away?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think it depends on the task, right? It depends on how important and how important the task is, how time sensitive the task is. But I'd say in general, if you're really handing something off to someone, I would really give it at least a week or two before once they're fully trained, once they have the keys and they know how to run the engine, or they know how to take care of the tomatoes, whatever the analogy is, I would give it a week or two of them just really giving the best shot. I mean, we run gyms, not emergency rooms. How bad can things go in a week or two, right? And I would check in, make myself available if they have questions, but I would give them a week or two to really try and run with it before I have my next official kind of check in to see how it's going. And I think that week or two is a week or two longer than some managers tend to leave for people to try things on their own. But long term, you want someone to take on a task that you're delegating to, have it really be theirs, and only really come to you when they need help. You shouldn't need to be really managing them with any sort of regular consistency beyond their ability to kind of meet with a manager on a regular basis, which may or may not be you. So I would say when you're first starting, if you're going to delegate something you're nervous about, make sure they have all the right instructions, they know how to do it, and then give it a week or two of them without your touching base, without you reaching out. And if they reach out to you, that's something else, right? They might need your help, right? But give them that week or two space as a starting point and see how it feels. Yeah. Would you say anything different?
I'd reiterate that. And I would say that the only thing that is more detrimental in my mind than micromanaging is declaring that you're not going to do so anymore, telling someone you're putting your trust in them, and then pulling the plug on that initiative incredibly quickly before they've had an opportunity to course correct. Even if they struggle, diving back in and micromanaging instantaneously hurts your reputation so badly as a leader and manager of people. So don't delegate if you're not prepared for it to fail in the short term. And learn from it, because it's such a terrible blow to someone's psyche to be given freedom and then have it taken away almost instantaneously because you second guessed your decision. So don't do this halfway.
Yeah, because delegating like that says, like, I trust you. You're the right person for this. I'm going to give you the freedom, the autonomy to run with this. You're going to make great choices. You're going to be better than this than me. And then, a day later, a few days later, be like, oh, nope, you jump back in because you got nervous. It sends the opposite message. Oh, no, I don't actually trust you. I was just making you feel good, right? I think that's so smart. They're gonna make mistakes in many cases. They're going to maybe stink at it in many cases. They might stumble and get cold feet in many cases, right? You need to give them space to learn, just like you had space to learn when you first took on these tasks. When I first started MFF, I didn't know anything about taking care of a gym at all. I had to figure it out on my own. I made a ton of mistakes, expensive mistakes, and I need to give them room to at least make some of those. Hopefully not as bad as mine, but I think that's the space I think you're describing, Pete, and I'll +1 that all day.
Sure. Do we want to make this a super tidy, quick one?
I think we covered this topic. I think, listeners, the takeaway here is, if you got a team and you want them to take on more ownership of the business, have more autonomy, leave them the fuck alone. Get out of their way. Hire great people, give them great instructions and guidance and support, and then get out of their way and maybe even disappear for a little while. Come back and see what happens. But, what is it? The other analogy, like a watched pot never boils, right? People are never going to perform the way you want them to with autonomy and purpose if you're just constantly staring down their damn necks.
Exactly. The point of the systems is so that you don't have to micromanage.
Yeah.
Step away.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let's leave it there, my friend. I think it's a great little, hopefully inspiring, get the hell out of your people's way, short podcast. But listeners, if you found this kind of podcast valuable, please leave us a 5-star review anywhere you listen to podcasts. It really does help us spread the word and get this podcast to other gym owners just like you, and share it with your peers and friends in the industry. Let them know that this is the best fucking podcast out there for gym owners. And
your employees are going to love this one.
Yeah, totally. Your employees are going to love this. They're going to share it with all other employees of gyms. And email us, pete@businessofunicorns.com, michael@businessofunicorns.com. Let us know what topic you want us to cover. Ask us questions in those emails. We really do use them to decide what we're going to talk about next. So thanks for a great Pete. Thanks for a great conversation, Pete. I'm going to go take some more cold medicine, and I'll see you all on the next one.
Take care, Michael.